Section 22 of The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy by Hannah Glasse. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 9, Part 4. For Lent or a Fast Dinner. From To Roast a Fillet or Collar of Sturgeon. Take a piece of fresh sturgeon, scale it, gut it, take out the bones and cut it in lengths of about 7 or 8 inches. Then provide some shrimps and oysters chopped small, an equal quantity of crumbs of bread, and a little lemon peel grated, some nutmeg, a little beaten mace, a little pepper and chopped parsley, a few sweet herbs, an anchovy. Mix it together. When it is done, butter one side of your fish and strew some of your mixture upon it. Then begin to roll it up as close as possible. And when the first piece is rolled up, roll upon that another, prepared in the same manner, and bind it round with a narrow fillet, leaving as much of the fish apparent as may be. But you must mind that the roll is not above 4 inches and a half thick, or else one part will be done before the inside is warm. Therefore, we often parboil the inside roll before we roll it. When it is enough, lay it in your dish and prepare sauce as above. Garnish with lemon. To boil sturgeon. Clean your sturgeon and prepare as much liquor as will just boil it. To 2 quarts of water, a pint of vinegar, a stick of horseradish, 2 or 3 bits of lemon peel, some whole pepper, a bay leaf, add a small handful of salt. Boil your fish in this and serve it with the following sauce. Melt a pound of butter, dissolve an anchovy in it, put in a blade or 2 of mace, bruise the body of a crab in the butter, a few shrimps or crawfish, a little ketchup and a little lemon juice. Give it a boil, drain your fish well, and lay it in your dish. Garnish with fried oysters, sliced lemon and scraped horseradish. Pour your sauce into boats or basins. So you may fry it, ragout it, or bake it. To crimp cod the Dutch way. Take a gallon of pump water and a pound of salt. Mix them well together. Take your cod whilst alive, and cut it in slices of 1 inch and a half thick. Throw it into the salt and water for half an hour. Then take it out and dry it well with a clean cloth. Flour it and broil it. Or have a stew pan with some pump water and salt boiling. Put in your fish and boil it quick for 5 minutes. Send oyster sauce, anchovy sauce, shrimp sauce, or what sauce you please. Garnish with horseradish and green parsley. To crimp skate. Cut it into long slips crossways about 1 inch broad and put it into spring water and salt, as above. Then have spring water and salt boiling. Put it in and boil it 15 minutes. Shrimp sauce or what sauce you like. To fricassee skate or thornback white. Cut the meat clean from the bone, fins, etc., and make it very clean. Cut it into little pieces about 1 inch broad and 2 inches long. Lay it in your stew pan. To a pound of the flesh, put 1/4 of a pint of water, a little beaten mace and grated nutmeg, a little bundle of sweet herbs, and a little salt. Cover it and let it boil 15 minutes. Take out the sweet herbs, put in 1/4 of a pint of good cream, a piece of butter as big as a walnut rolled in flour, a glass of white wine. Keep shaking the pan all the while one way till it is thick and smooth. Then dish it up and garnish with lemon. To fricassee it brown. Take your fish as above, flour it and fry it of a fine brown in fresh butter. Then take it up, lay it before the fire to keep warm. Pour the fat out of the pan, shake in a little flour, and with a spoon stir in a piece of butter as big as an egg. Stir it round till it is well mixed in the pan, then pour in 1/4 of a pint of water, stir it round, Shake in a very little beaten pepper, a little beaten mace. Put in an onion and a little bundle of sweet herbs, an anchovy, shake it round and let it boil. Then pour in a quarter of a pint of red wine, a spoonful of ketchup, a little juice of lemon, stir it all together and let it boil. When it is enough, take out the sweet herbs and onion and put in the fish to heat. Then dish it up and garnish with lemon. To fricassee soles white. Skin, wash and cut your soles very clean. Cut off their heads, dry them in a cloth, then with your knife very carefully cut the flesh from the bones and fins on both sides. Cut the flesh long ways and then across, so that each sole will be in 8 pieces. Take the heads and bones, then put them into a saucepan with a pint of water, a bundle of sweet herbs, an onion, a little whole pepper, 2 or 3 blades of mace, a little salt, a very little piece of lemon peel, and a little crust of bread. Cover it close, let it boil till half is wasted, then strain it through a fine sieve. Put it into a stew pan, put in the soles and half a pint of white wine, a little parsley chopped fine, a few mushrooms cut small, a piece of butter as big as a hen's egg rolled in flour, grate in a little nutmeg, set all together on the fire, but keep shaking the pan all the while till the fish is enough. Then dish it up and garnish with lemon. To fricassee soles brown. Cleanse and cut your soles. Boil the water as in the foregoing receipt. Flour your fish and fry them in fresh butter of a fine light brown. Take the flesh of a small sole, beat it in a mortar with a piece of bread as big as a hen's egg soaked in cream, the yolks of 2 hard eggs and a little melted butter, a little bit of thyme, a little parsley, an anchovy, season it with nutmeg, mix all together with the yolk of a raw egg and with a little flour. Roll it up into little balls and fry them, but not too much. Then lay your fish and balls before the fire. Pour out all the fat of the pan, pour in the liquor which is boiled with the spice and herbs. Stir it round in the pan, then put in half a pint of red wine, a few truffles and morels, a few mushrooms, a spoonful of ketchup, and the juice of half a small lemon. Stir in all together and let it boil. Then stir in a piece of butter rolled in flour. Stir it round. When your sauce is of a fine thickness, put in your fish and balls, and when it is hot, dish it up, put in the balls and pour your sauce over it. Garnish with lemon. In the same manner, dress a small turbot or any flat fish. To boil soles. Take a pair of soles, make them clean, lay them in vinegar, salt and water 2 hours. Then dry them in a cloth, put them into a stew pan, put to them a pint of white wine, a bundle of sweet herbs, an onion stuck with 6 cloves, some whole pepper and a little salt. Cover them and let them boil. When they are enough, take them up, lay them in your dish, strain the liquor and thicken it up with butter and flour. Pour the sauce over and garnish with scraped horseradish and lemon. In this manner, dress a little turbot. It is a genteel dish for supper. You may add prawns or shrimps or mussels to the sauce. Another way to boil soles. Take 3 quarts of spring water and a handful of salt. Let it boil. Then put in your soles, boil them gently for 10 minutes. Then dish them up in a clean napkin with anchovy sauce or shrimp sauce in boats. To make a collar of fish in ragout, to look like a breast of veal collared. Take a large eel, skin it, wash it clean, and parboil it. Pick off the flesh and beat it in a mortar. Season it with beaten mace, nutmeg, pepper, salt, a few sweet herbs, parsley, and a little lemon peel chopped small. Beat all well together with an equal quantity of crumbs of bread. Mix it well together, then take a turbot, soles, skate or thornback, or any flat fish that will roll cleverly. Lay the flat fish on the dresser, take away all the bones and fins, and cover your fish with the farce. Then roll it up as tight as you can, and open the skin of your eel, and bind the collar with it nicely, so that it may be flat, top and bottom, to stand well in the dish. Then butter an earthen dish, and set it in upright. Flour it all over, and stick a piece of butter on the top and round the edges, so that it may run down on the fish, and let it be well baked, but take great care it is not broke. Let there be 1/4 pint of water in the dish. In the meantime, take the water the eel was boiled in, and all the bones of the fish. Set them on to boil, season them with mace, cloves, black and white pepper, sweet herbs, and onion. Cover it close and let it boil till there is about 1/4 pint, then strain it, add to it a few truffles and morels, a few mushrooms, 2 spoonfuls of ketchup, a gill of red wine, a piece of butter as big as a large walnut rolled in flour. Stir all together, season with salt to your palate. Save some of the farce you make of the eel, and mix with the yolk of an egg, and roll them up in little balls with flour, and fry them of a light brown. When your fish is enough, lay it in your dish, skim all the fat off the pan, and pour the gravy to your sauce. Let it all boil together till it is thick. Then pour it over the roll, and put in your balls. Garnish with lemon. This does best in a tin oven before the fire, because then you can baste it as you please. This is a fine bottom dish. To butter crabs or lobsters. Take 2 crabs or lobsters, being boiled and cold. Take all the meat out of the shells and bodies. Mince it small and put it all together into a saucepan. Add to it a glass of white wine, 2 spoonfuls of vinegar, a nutmeg grated, then let it boil up till it is thorough hot. Then have ready 1/2 pound of fresh butter, melted with an anchovy, and the yolks of 2 eggs beat up and mixed with the butter. Then mix crabs and butter all together, shaking the saucepan constantly round till it is quite hot. Then have ready the great shell, either of a crab or lobster. Lay it in the middle of your dish, pour some into the shell and the rest in little saucers round the shell, sticking 3-corner toast between the saucers and round the shell. This is a fine side dish at a second course. To butter lobsters another way. Parboil your lobsters, then break the shells, pick out all the meat, cut it small, take the meat out of the body, mix it fine with a spoon in a little white wine. For example, a small lobster, 1 spoonful of wine. Put it into a saucepan with the meat of the lobster, 4 spoonfuls of white wine, a blade of mace, a little beaten pepper and salt. Let it stew all together a few minutes, then stir in a piece of butter, shake your saucepan round till the butter is melted. Put in a spoonful of vinegar and strew in as many crumbs of bread as will make it thick enough. When it is hot, pour it into your plate and garnish with the chine of a lobster cut in 4, peppered, salted and broiled. This makes a pretty plate or a fine dish, with 2 or 3 lobsters. You may add 1 teaspoonful of fine sugar to your sauce. To roast lobsters. Boil your lobsters, then lay them before the fire and baste them with butter till they have a fine froth. Dish them up with plain melted butter in a cup. This is as good a way to the full as roasting them, and not half the trouble. To make a fine dish of lobsters. Take 3 lobsters, boil the largest as above, and froth it before the fire. Take the other 2 boiled, and butter them as in the foregoing receipt. Take the 2 body shells, heat them hot and fill them with the buttered meat. Lay the large lobster in the middle and the 2 shells on each side, and the 2 great claws of the middle lobster at each end, and the 4 pieces of chines of the 2 lobsters broiled and laid on each end. This, if nicely done, makes a pretty dish. To dress a crab. Having taken out the meat and cleansed it from the skin, put it into a stew pan with half a pint of white wine, a little nutmeg, pepper and salt over a slow fire. Throw in a few crumbs of bread, beat up 1 yolk of an egg with 1 spoonful of vinegar, throw it in, then shake the saucepan round a minute, and serve it up on a plate. To stew prawns, shrimps or crawfish. Pick out the tails, lay them by, about 2 quarts. Take the bodies, give them a bruise and put them into a pint of white wine with a blade of mace. Let them stew a quarter of an hour, stir them together and strain them. Then wash out the saucepan, put to it the strained liquor and tails. Grate a small nutmeg in, add a little salt and a quarter of a pound of butter rolled in flour. Shake it all together, cut a pretty thin toast round a quartern loaf, toast it brown on both sides, cut it into 6 pieces, lay it close together in the bottom of your dish, and pour your fish and sauce over it. Send it to table hot. If it be crawfish or prawns, garnish your dish with some of the biggest claws laid thick round. Water will do in the room of wine, only add a spoonful of vinegar. To make scallops of oysters. Put your oysters into scallop shells for that purpose. Set them on your gridiron over a good clear fire. Let them stew till you think your oysters are enough. Then have ready some crumbs of bread rubbed in a clean napkin. Fill your shells and set them before a good fire and baste them well with butter. Let them be of a fine brown, keeping them turning to be brown all over alike. But a tin oven does them best before the fire. They eat much the best done this way, though most people stew the oysters first in a saucepan with a blade of mace thickened with a piece of butter, and fill the shells and then cover them with crumbs and brown them with a hot iron, but the bread has not the fine taste of the former. To stew mussels. Wash them very clean from the sand in 2 or 3 waters. Put them into a stew pan, cover them close, and let them stew till all the shells are opened. Then take them out one by one, pick them out of the shells, and look under the tongue to see if there be a crab. If there is, you must throw away the mussel. Some will only pick out the crab and eat the mussel. When you have picked them all clean, put them into a saucepan. To a quart of mussels, put half a pint of the liquor strained through a sieve. Put in a blade or 2 of mace, a piece of butter as big as a large walnut rolled in flour. Let them stew. Toast some bread brown and lay them round the dish, cut 3-corner ways. Pour in the mussels and send them to table hot. Another way to stew mussels. Clean and stew your mussels as in the foregoing receipt. Only to a quart of mussels put in a pint of liquor and a quarter of a pound of butter rolled in a very little flour. When they are enough, have some crumbs of bread ready and cover the bottom of your dish thick. Grate half a nutmeg over them and pour the mussels and sauce all over the crumbs and send them to table. A third way to dress mussels. Stew them as above and lay them in your dish. Strew your crumbs of bread thick all over them, then set them before a good fire, turning the dish round and round that they may be brown all alike. Keep basting them with butter, that the crumbs may be crisp, and it will make a pretty side dish. You may do cockles the same way. To stew scallops. Boil them very well in salt and water. Take them out and stew them in a little of the liquor, a little white wine, a little vinegar, 2 or 3 blades of mace, 2 or 3 cloves, a piece of butter rolled in flour, and the juice of a Seville orange. Stew them well and dish them up. To ragout oysters. Take a quart of the largest oysters you can get. Open them, save the liquor and strain it through a fine sieve. Wash your oysters in warm water. Make a batter thus. Take 2 yolks of eggs, beat them well, grate in half a nutmeg, cut a little lemon peel small, a good deal of parsley, a spoonful of the juice of spinach, 2 spoonfuls of cream or milk, beat it up with flour to a thick batter. Have ready some butter in a stew pan, dip your oysters one by one into the batter, and have ready crumbs of bread. Then roll them in it, and fry them quick and brown, some with the crumbs of bread and some without. Take them out of the pan and set them before the fire. Then have ready a quart of chestnuts, shelled and skinned. Fry them in the butter. When they are enough, take them up, pour the fat out of the pan, shake a little flour all over the pan, and rub a piece of butter as big as a hen's egg all over the pan with your spoon, till it is melted and thick. Then put in the oyster liquor, 3 or 4 blades of mace. Stir it round, put in a few pistachio nuts shelled, let them boil, then put in the chestnuts and half a pint of white wine. Have ready the yolks of 2 eggs beat up with 4 spoonfuls of cream. Stir all well together. When it is thick and fine, lay the oysters in the dish and pour the ragout over them. Garnish with chestnuts and lemon. You may ragout mussels the same way. You may leave out the pistachio nuts if you do not like them, but they give the sauce a fine flavour. To ragout endive. Take some fine white endive, 3 heads, lay them in salt and water 2 or 3 hours. Take 100 of asparagus, cut off the green heads, chop the rest small as far as is tender. Lay it in salt and water. Take a bunch of celery, wash it and scrape it clean. Cut it in pieces about 3 inches long. Put it into a saucepan with a pint of water, 3 or 4 blades of mace, some whole pepper tied in a rag. Let it stew till it is quite tender. Then put in the asparagus, shake the saucepan, let it simmer till the grass is enough. Take the endive out of the water, drain it, leave 1 large head whole, the other, leaf by leaf, put it into a stew pan, put to it a pint of white wine. Cover the pan close, let it boil till the endive is just enough. Then put in 1/4 pound of butter rolled in flour. Cover it close, shaking the pan. When the endive is enough, take it up, lay the whole head in the middle, and with a spoon take out the celery and grass and lay round, the other part of the endive over that. Then pour the liquor out of the saucepan into the stew pan, stir it together, season it with salt, and have ready the yolks of 2 eggs beat up with 1/4 pint of cream and half a nutmeg grated in. Mix this with the sauce, keep it stirring all one way till it is thick, then pour it over your ragout and send it to table hot. To ragout French beans. Take a few beans, boil them tender, then take your stew pan, put in a piece of butter. When it is melted, shake in some flour and peel a large onion, slice it and fry it brown in that butter. Then put in the beans, shake in a little pepper and a little salt, grate a little nutmeg in, have ready the yolk of an egg and some cream. Stir them all together for a minute or 2 and dish them up. To make good brown gravy. Take half a pint of small beer or ale that is not bitter, and half a pint of water, an onion cut small, a little bit of lemon peel cut small, 3 cloves, a blade of mace, some whole pepper, a spoonful of mushroom pickle, a spoonful of walnut pickle, a spoonful of ketchup, and an anchovy. First put a piece of butter into a saucepan as big as a hen's egg. When it is melted, shake in a little flour and let it be a little brown. Then, by degrees, stir in the above ingredients and let it boil a quarter of an hour. Then strain it, and it is fit for fish or roots. To fricassee skirrets. Wash the roots very well and boil them till they are tender. Then the skin of the roots must be taken off, cut in slices, and have ready a little cream, a piece of butter rolled in flour, the yolk of an egg beat, a little nutmeg grated, 2 or 3 spoonfuls of white wine, a very little salt, and stir all together. Your roots being in the dish, pour the sauce over them. It is a pretty side dish. So likewise you may dress root of salsify and scorzonera. Chardoons fried and buttered. You must cut them about 6 inches long and string them, then boil them till tender. Take them out, have some butter melted in your stew pan, flour them and fry them brown. Send them in a dish with melted butter in a cup. Or you may tie them up in bundles and boil them like asparagus. Put a toast under them and pour a little melted butter over them, or cut them into dice and boil them like peas. Toss them up in butter and send them up hot. Chardoons à la fromage. After they are stringed, cut them an inch long, stew them in a little red wine till they are tender. Season with pepper and salt, and thicken it with a piece of butter rolled in flour. Then pour them into your dish, squeeze the juice of orange over it, then scrape Parmesan or Cheshire cheese all over them. Then brown it with a cheese iron and serve it up quick and hot. To make Scotch Rabbit. Toast a piece of bread very nicely on both sides, butter it, cut a slice of cheese about as big as the bread, toast it on both sides and lay it on the bread. To make a Welsh Rabbit. Toast the bread on both sides, then toast the cheese on one side, lay it on the toast, and with a hot iron brown the other side. You may rub it over with mustard. To make an English Rabbit. Toast a slice of bread brown on both sides, then lay it in a plate before the fire. Pour a glass of red wine over it, and let it soak the wine up. Then cut some cheese very thin and lay it very thick over the bread, and put it in a tin oven before the fire, and it will be toasted and browned presently. Serve it away hot. Or do it thus. Toast the bread and soak it in the wine. Set it before the fire. Cut your cheese in very thin slices. Rub butter over the bottom of a plate. Lay the cheese on. Pour in 2 or 3 spoonfuls of white wine. Cover it with another plate. Set it over a chafing dish of hot coals for 2 or 3 minutes. Then stir it till it is done and well mixed. You may stir in a little mustard. When it is enough, lay it on the bread, just brown it with a hot shovel. Serve it away hot. Sorrel with eggs. First your sorrel must be quite boiled and well strained. Then poach 3 eggs soft and 3 hard. Butter your sorrel well. Fry some 3-cornered toasts brown. Lay the sorrel in the dish, lay the soft eggs on it and the hard between. Stick the toast in and about it. Garnish with a quartered orange. A fricassee of artichoke bottoms. Take them either dried or pickled. If dried, you must lay them in warm water for 3 or 4 hours, shifting the water 2 or 3 times. Then have ready a little cream and a piece of fresh butter, stirred together one way over the fire till it is melted. Then put in the artichokes, and when they are hot, dish them up. End of section 22.